Okay, so I think we've kind of we've strangled that whole notation thing to death, much to everyone's disgust.
Yeah. People have already tuned out by this point.
I know, but we don't care. We're just going to keep on rambling and ranting on about stuff we find interesting. So I suppose the next thing to sort of get into is you've been doing this vlog series, which is set cats amongst pigeons. Yeah, which actually has been fantastic to see, because this is actually why I like Levi, because he's not afraid to say the controversial things that many people think but feel they don't have a license to say. But Levi, he just doesn't care. He doesn't care. In fact, what you said to me is that the reason you started saying all these things was to burn your bridges in the music industry.
Yeah, well, living in London and it just being, like I say, a really stifling place. I got disheartened with the music industry. I was like, everything's stacked against you, and I work my ass off and I make ends meet, but is there just a ceiling just here above my head? Am I ever going to get past this fight and struggle? So I just wanted out of the industry. And I thought, well, if I go out of the industry, I'm only going to come back with my tail between my legs in 6 months' time and try again. So I thought, fuck it, I'll burn all the bridges on the way out and I'll just upset everyone to the point where I can't work. And I started saying things and just being quite controversial for the sake of controversy. And yeah, my traffic started going through the roof. People need to understand, though, it is a persona. Like, I don't know if anyone out there watches other YouTube things that aren't guitar players, but like I'm really into guys like Maddox or Jim Sterling. They're personas. They're amplified versions of themselves.
Yeah.
It's entertainment, but at the same time, if you leave after I've said something controversial and you have a think and it makes you think about something, then it's been worthwhile.
Well, I mean, I think, but I mean, it's true to say that everything you've done as a representation of what you think. You haven't actually put forward a position that you don't fundamentally believe in for the sake of controversy, have you?
I try to always be balanced, though. Like when I did the Tom Hess piece, I tried at the start of the written side of things to stand in his corner a bit and say, Tom is very good at this and I respect Tom for this. And some people, like obviously people have seen that I've had disagreements with Rob Chapman in the past. Someone tried to use the fact that I use Rob as a positive example in my new video as an example of me being a hypocrite and full of shit. And it's like, well no, because I respect Rob Chapman for this. He does this and he's great at it, and I love and respect that. Good for him. I don't want to take anyone's careers away.
So maybe the way to tackle this is really, just we'll go through the sort of the vlogs that you've put up so far and just have a brief conversation about each one of them. I think was the first one you put up, was that about these 1,400 million mile an hour guitar players? Well,
where it actually came from is on my website. I had a written blog and I did maybe 10 of those, and traffic was really good and people were getting involved. Like they were sharing them a lot and they were in the comments. They were we were opening a discussion, but then I just thought, well, I've got a camera, I can do videos. Because as I say, I watch a lot of guys like Thunderfoot on YouTube. I like listening to people speak and thinking about what they're saying. So I thought, well, it would just augment my blogs by adding video to them. So I did that one on Guinness. I think it was Guinness record holders, because...
Well, I think it's fair to say that Levi and I are completely on the same page as this. The notion that any human being can physically do that is just impossible.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's not so much the fact that it's impossible. I just find that it's an odd motivation to think that something like that would even be important.
Well, I didn't want to take that away from people. Like, if that's what you want to do, if you want to play fast, if you want to be the world record holder for speed, and that's your motivation, and it actually gets you out of bed and you sit and you really practice and you love it, brilliant. I don't want to shit on people like that. What I wanted to shit on is the people that essentially lie.
Yes.
It's the deceit.
It's the dishonesty.
Because there are guys out there that can play Flight of the Bumblebee getting on for 300 BPM. And that's amazing.
Yeah.
Like, you look at that and you go, well done. You've devoted your entire life to being technically solid on the instrument, and I admire and respect that. But they're never going to get any attention because there's guys out there putting videos on YouTube where they're going...
Yeah, I've seen them.
And they put... That's 1,200 BPM.
I mean, I think the thing about those videos is that if you watch any of them, they're so obviously faked.
Yeah.
I mean, the camera's sped up, or you can see it's been done against some sort of green screen or something like that. Some of them are actually... What amazes and impresses me about some of them is that the amount of effort that's been clearly put into faking this video.
Yeah.
I remember seeing one of them that was... conducted in the... I'm not going to name any names here because I'm scared of controversy, unlike you. But anyways, it was done in like a cafe or something like that, you know. And they had this shot of people walking by outside, you know, and so to try and show it was in real time.
I don't know. I think I know the videos you're talking about, but I don't think they're faked in the way that you're saying they are. I think that because there's a lot of live attempts, and you see them play it at 160, 140 BPM, and it's sloppy at 140, and then they just start pushing the speed higher and higher, and it's the illusion of, well, I've heard him play it at 140, I've heard him play it at 160, okay, he's playing at 200, I can't really hear what's going on here, but he played it fine at 140, so if he's telling me that that's 200, then that must be 200. And then it gets to 500 and 1,000. Guinness, like, they're not going to sit and slow the video down and check back and go, yeah, all right, you've achieved this, we'll give you the well. They're just going to watch and go, good, well done, tick the box, record holder, well done.
Well, that's always a bit disappointing that there isn't a real sort of investigation as to what you know. I mean, it's a bit like saying. It's a bit like saying that you could run 100 metres in like less than 3 seconds.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just outside the physical parameter of a human being to do that.
If you could, I'd love to see it.
Oh, I mean, and maybe one day, you know, some genetic freak will come along, but I think there's going to be a limit, because I think one of the things you talked about was to be picking that fast, the speed that you would have to be able to do the downstrokes and upstrokes, and then you'd obviously have to reverse the picking motion.
Yeah, accelerate, slow down and change direction.
Well, I mean, but no, I think it's just impossible.
I calculated that, it would not calculate, I tried to calculate, but I couldn't be bothered to put too much time into it. But I calculated that even if you weren't changing direction, even if you just had a 2,000 string guitar and you just swept across it, to play the speeds that they're trying to tell you they're playing at, you would need to move your hand faster than the speed for the world record punch.
Right.
So the fastest punch ever recorded, you need to be moving your hand faster than that.
But not just once, we're just consistently backwards and forwards at that tempo. It's just, it defies belief. So we're basically in agreement that that's all complete bunk.
Yeah.
It's all nonsense, and it's just a headline grabber. See, the other thing that occurs to me is, if these guys were really the real deal, they would be the monsters of the guitar world. Because not only would they be doing one thing like that, they'd be doing everything like that, and it'd be obvious to everybody that they could do it.
That's the other thing. I kind of tried to make the point, who cares? Who cares that you can play? The reason you can play it fast is because it's pattern based, i.e. 4 notes per string. Mm-hmm. What happens when you want to play this?
Well, you just can't do it.
You can't play it fast because your technique doesn't allow you to do that. Your technique, what you play, is dictated by what your technique allows you to do, and that's just so backwards. We should have the technique to play what we want to play.
Well, I think aside from the self-delusion and deception which is clearly going on in all these so-called world record attempts, the other thing we need to address is what is technique for? You know, I mean, if you regard technique as being an end in itself, then I think you've completely missed the point about music.
Yeah.
You know, because technique should be a means to execute something.
Yeah.
Right? It's a means to play music. It's certainly not some sort of holy grail end in and of itself that you're going to work towards because you can do it. And it seems that all the guys that I listen to who are really, and I'm talking about the guys who are genuine players, as well. They're not trying to sell you a lie about playing 1,400 beats a minute, but those guys who have extremely developed their technique, I feel that because they've spent so much time doing that, there's very little time for anything else.
Creativity is...
Yes, yeah. And you do tend to find the guys that possess extreme levels of technique, they just seem to me to lack musicality.
Yeah.
There's nothing in any of those guys who they play something beautiful or elegant or something that really strikes you as being in any way meaningful.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong, I am personally, I would love to have that level of technique, but I don't want to, if someone said to me, you can have that level of technique, but you need to, throw out any musicality you've got and just have this technique, I'm like, no way. There's no way I'm going to make that trade.
Yeah.
There's no way I'm going to make that trade because, ultimately it's music. And so, without repeating myself too much,
I filmed 4 vlogs when I did that initial one about the speed thing, and a point I made on another one, which will come out at some point soon, is the trap that technique is. It's an easy trap to fall into
yes.
because you can judge your progress. You can mark. You can actually see how far you've come. That's not like improving your phrasing on a blues. You can't. It's not easy to tell how far you've come. The problem with that trap is it leads to you become one of those players that see me use a fret rack for stuff and say that's cheating. And it's, what do you mean cheating? Music isn't a competition. The moment you've used the word cheating, you've implied competitiveness. You don't. There's no competing in music. You're making the music. You do what you need to do in order to make the music you need to make. If I want to use this, and that's cheating, then I'm going to turn around to you and say, well, you use frets. That's cheating. Get a fretless guitar.
You use your fingers. That's cheating.
Yeah.
You're using a plectrum. That's cheating.
Yeah. Play with your fingers.
You're playing a guitar. That's cheating.
The whole thing is It's
I mean, I think there was one thing I talked about in a previous video, which I don't want to sort of retrend, but I mean, if you think about all the guitar as a conduit between the musical thoughts or personality that you have and what the listener hears, right? And if that's what it is, then it's actually got nothing to do with the technique of actually playing the instrument. And the guys who I truly think are amazing musicians don't even necessarily possess the best techniques, but you do feel that when you listen to them, you're listening to something that's authentically them.
Yeah.
Something that really, you think that is really them.
Yeah.
And that's a thing that you just don't hear with the technique obsessed monsters out there, because you feel like it's almost like they've created, like referring to a persona, they've erected this edifice of them, the shredder, the monster technical player, but it is just a facade and edifice, and it's a bit like behind the veil of Oz there is nothing.
The thing is, I never really thought about it till you said that, but there are a bunch of players that I love who have amazing technique.
Oh yeah.
And like you say, there are players that I love that don't have amazing technique. But the players that I love that have amazing technique, I don't love them because their technique is amazing. I love them because they make really good music. Yeah. But then you think of a player like Mike Stern, who's one of my biggest influences for the longest time now. I love his playing, and I've seen him live so many times. I don't consider him to have good technique. I mean, I've never seen him mess up, but Mike I always describe as, he always sounds like he's one note away from messing up. Mm-hmm. He always sounds like he's playing right at the edge of what he's capable of. But that's his sound. He somehow pulls it off. Nobody would like Troy Grady did Cracking the Code with Mike Stern. And when you were analysing his technique, it's like, well, this is pretty rough compared to most of the other guys. But it doesn't matter because he sounds like Mike Stern.
Well, I mean, I think it really just reinforces the idea that technique is a means to an end, and it's not an end in itself. And if you start classifying it as an end in itself, then you've kind of missed the point. And this is for someone who has got a video series called Judge Shred, And I've done plenty of monstrous shredding videos. I've done plenty of them, But you've just got to realise that it's not a be all and end all.
But you've done other videos where you're playing jazz.
Absolutely.
Where you're playing with soul. Like, have you seen? There's a video of Rusty Cooley playing jazz on his 7-string.
I can only imagine.
Yeah, it gave my ears cancer. Like it was fucking awful. Like he's just trying to play walking bass lines on a 7-string. Like, and I can play jazz, and it's like
no, I don't think no. I just
I'm not showing versatility.
I'm pretty familiar with Rusty Cooley's playing, and I've never seen any hint that he could play jazz.
Yeah,
I mean, I think he does possess one of the best picking techniques ever. Yeah, but
similar to yours. Because you
pick, don't lump me with Rusty, man. Don't do that, man.
So, I mean, you've got
that barrel.
You've got the elbow movement, right?
Well, yeah, I know. But
your picking is tight, and so is Rusty's. So.
Well, I think I would much rather have a picking technique like Chris Brooks with his like super efficient. It's like Ingve on steroids. Yeah. His picking technique, it's amazing. Yeah. I mean, I think I think the reason my technique is the way it is because when I was learning to do that sort of stuff, I didn't really think about how it would be done. It's just something that developed. Yeah. And my synchronization is good.
Very good.
But the speed isn't absolutely. It's not as quick as the quickest guys.
Quick enough though.
It's quick enough, for sure.
That's the most important thing. Like, anybody that's listened to my album, like every solo, there's some chops on there, but
they don't dominate.
Definitely not the fastest. There's faster players.
Yeah, but so what? You mean that's like saying that's like saying somewhere in the world there's a better musician than me. Somewhere in the world there's someone more intelligent than me. Somewhere in the world there's someone better looking than me. I mean, it's just all.
I see them every day.
The point is it a genuine reflection of your musical personality? Well, if it is, then it is.
Yeah.
It's. I think all these things aside, it's just they're unimportant.
Yeah.
All right, so we've decided that 1400. I tell you who I do think is genuinely one of the fastest players in the world, and you may not agree with this. Are you aware of someone called Roy Marchbank? Do you know Roy?
Yeah, I've spoken to Roy a ton of times over the years, but Roy's one of those guys where I've seen videos of him playing, and I want to see it in the flesh. Simple as that.
He wasn't at. He went to Perth College. He wasn't there quite the same time I was, but I did know him somewhat, and I've got a fairly good bullshit radar. I can tell when someone is not the real deal, but with Roy's case, I think he's genuine.
He has special shaped picks, right? That facilitate him doing what he does. If memory serves me correctly.
Yeah, he's. There's just something about that technique, and you can look at that and you can just go, "All right, I can see why that's."
Well, that's why I've actually never said anything bad about Roy, because I look at the videos and I go, bullshit. But enough people that I respect have said Roy can really play, so I don't believe that it is bullshit. I believe that it's just something I want to see it. I really want to see it.
I mean, I would love to as well, and I think one of the things I will try and do at some point this year is go down and see him and do some videos with him. It'd be.
Well, the other reason you know he's genuine is because he doesn't push.
No, he's he's a remarkably diffident guy. I mean, I really like it. Regardless of that aside, I really like his music, and I think he's got a wonderful, interesting musical personality. And he doesn't, to me, you can hear lots of different influences, but you don't think that he's really consciously trying to rip a particular player off. He seems to have his own genuine musical personality. So for me, if someone to say who is the fastest guitar player in the world, I would say I think it's Roy.
And I would say it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. Fair enough. That's a good point to leave this discussion. I think. All right. So, what was your next, the most disgustingly controversial?
Oh no, that wasn't the next one.
That was actually fairly uncontroversial, I think.
The next one was people agreed with it. Still, is gear acquisition syndrome might be the reason you're not improving as a player.
I don't think there's very much to say about that, because I kind of agree with that. I'm actually not a massive gearhead, and I'm quite distrustful of people who always go on about what gear they've got. Yeah. Because quite often I find it's like a proxy or a substitute for doing practice, or actually for talking about music.
All the gear, but no idea.
Yeah, well, exactly. A lot of guys with great gear, and then you listen to play and you just go, oh dear.
But again, I know some of you might have seen the title of the video and come to the conclusion and not even bothered watching it. Actually, if you watch, the point I make is that I don't buy new guitars. I am looking at buying a new guitar this week, but for the most part, I'm really happy. Like my red guitar that people have probably seen me with. This is my Vigier Excalibur Ruby Weapon. I love it a bit. I'm not interested in any other guitars, but I'm still subject to gas because I buy so many music books.
Right.
Like multiple music books are turning up every single week because I just love building my library, and I read a little bit of them and practice one of the exercises, and then it goes on the shelf. And it's like, when it came to Christmas, my girlfriend was like, well, what do you want? And I was like, well, I have a ton of books on my Amazon wishlist I'd love. And she said, okay, I'll buy you a bunch. But why? Because I've got so many books that I had enjoyed working through but never finished. And it's that feeling of, that I'm going to find the answer to my problem in this book. The book will come and the answer will be there. Yeah. Much like people say, well, I can't play jazz because I've not got a nice jazz hollow body. That's not the reason you can't play jazz.
No.
All the answers are there on the records that you already own.
Right.
But still, after making the blog and saying, make 2016 the year where you beat gas, I've still not managed it because books are coming in. And
well, I think the problem is that the human condition is to always be dissatisfied with your current situation, isn't it? And then thinking, let's get spiritual for a minute. This is all to do with the idea of looking outside yourself for solutions, whereas really, the change has got to come from within. It's a bit like that joke. This Buddhist goes up to a hot dog vendor. You probably know this joke. I'm going to tell it anyway. Buddhist goes up to a hot dog vendor and asks for a bun, and he hands over his $10 bill and gets this slathered piece of sausage meat in return. And he's sitting there and he's waiting for this change. Waiting for his change, and he waits a long time, and he eventually says to the hot dog vendor, "Can I have my change?" And the hot dog vendor says, "Well, the change only comes from within."
Yeah. You missed the first part, which is where he walks up to the hot dog vendor and says, I'd like you to make me one with everything.
Ah, well, that's a pizza joke.
Surely that applies to hot dogs.
Well, I don't know. I think it's more applicable to pizzas.
If you give me a hot dog and it doesn't have everything on it, I'm going to be disappointed. Yeah.
Anyway,
so, gas.
aside, gas. Well, I mean, I'm not particularly gassy. It's just colonic verbiage I suffer from. I'm not particularly gassy, so I think my views about equipment are, again, it's a bit like the instrument itself. It's a means to an end, to expressing the music within you, and therefore, provided the instrument and the equipment isn't terrible, I mean, you're going to sound like you.
Yep.
I could give you the cheapest Stratocaster imaginable, and you would still sound like you.
Still going to be unlistenable.
The point is, you would still sound like
you.
And getting a new guitar. I mean, getting a new guitar might, I think, conceivably open up the willingness to explore other avenues, and it might inspire you. Maybe, yes. So there's that, but it's not going to make you. I mean, I'm not going to pick up an Ibanez and sound like Steve Vai.
Yeah.
I'm just not.
Yeah.
So my opinion about the guitar is, I really just regard it as a bat.
Yeah.
It's a tool. It's a tool, and that's all it is a tool for me to try and express what I'm trying to express, and it's nothing more than that. I know that's not a very romantic way of looking at the instrument, but I'm not attached to the guitar in that way. I'm very attached to music and what you can produce with the guitar, but the actual guitar itself, I just really regard as being as a conduit. It's my tool, to get the job done, and to the extent that I can do the job.
Yeah.
Alright, so I think for me that's uncontroversial, because I'm not a massive gearhead. I know there's going to be people out there that are going to be going, oh no, gear is everything, and I just need to get this new pedal and I'll be awesome.
Yeah.
No, you won't. You won't. Honestly, you won't.
Yeah.
And just spend your money on hookers instead. It's much better.
Yeah. I've spent a lot of money on hookers, and I think I'm getting better at sex. So sometimes it does work, actually.
Right. Okay. So here's another completely inappropriate joke. How many dead hookers can I get in my garage?
I know the answer, and it's terrible. So I'm going to pretend
It's 2 more if I move my bike.
See, I knew it, but no.
In my defence, it's a Frankie Boyle joke, and we love Frankie Boyle.
Love Frankie Boyle.
Love Frankie Boyle. The guy is a genius.
Yeah.
And a great observer and commentator of the human condition.
A controversial person.
Exactly. Yeah.
I like Frankie Boyle, and I like Ricky Gervais. They say controversial things, and they make you think.
Exactly. So maybe the thing is, think for yourself. Don't accept what anybody tells you. So if you're sitting about listening to us thinking, well, these guys know lots, I should just listen to what they say and do what they tell us. No, don't do that.
Yeah.
Go and do what seems right to you.
Yeah. And that actually leads really well on to the next vlog, which was the Tom Hess one.
Now this caused a whole lot of stuff, didn't it? Right? I saw some of the comments and I just thought, oh wow, this tsunami. Good. I think the thing about that is that obviously you've got it's a bit like the whole the young earth creationists and the atheists. There's a camp over here and there's a camp over there. Yeah. There's a camp of people that don't particularly like Tom and the sort of stuff he does, and he's got his fans.
Yeah.
He's got his fans.
The cultists. Yeah.
Well, I mean, my take on that was, I do think it is a ludicrous position for anyone to argue that there's only one way to knowledge.
Yeah.
So if you're saying that you should do it the way that I do it because it's the only possible valid way of doing it, it's nonsensical. It's absolutely nonsensical, because it doesn't account for any level of variation.
Yeah.
No level of species variation. We're all clones, and I would find that objectionable for anybody saying that about anything. That this is the only way to look at things. This is the only right way to do it. And if you don't do it this way, it's intrinsically wrong. And I just don't agree with that statement.
I consider myself a serious teacher. I read books on education. I've got teaching qualifications. I've got tons of experience, and part of all of that is understanding that people learn in different ways.
Yes.
And I have a method that I visualise the neck, or the way I think when I play, but it's not for everybody. And because of that, as a teacher, as a reputable teacher with students that play well and say good things about me, the reason I do well in that scene, much like anybody that does well in that scene, is because I'm like Batman. I've got a utility belt of methods that I can pull out to reach the person in the way that is most effective for them, rather than having your doctor who comes in and he's in his mid-40s and he's desperately wants to play Clapton, but he's got no time to practice, and I'm just hammering him on Wayne Crance's interval method and wondering why he's not improving. That's just not.
It's just not appropriate, is it?
And that's essentially what Tom had done in that. I mean, I admire Tom, I do, because he's built up a big business for himself. I've seen people say different amounts, but the consensus seems to be $1 million business. I know he's very well off, but it's not out of respect as a guitar player. It's as a marketer. It's because, like, Andy McLaughlin went with Tom for a while for the marketing strategies, to understand how to market himself, and that was brilliant for Andy. It worked really, really well for Andy. But this idea of Tom sort of putting out ways to play the guitar, trying to teach people how to play guitar, don't do it, Tom, because you're not the best player. You're not a respected player. You're a respected marketer. And part of your marketing strategy is to shit on other people and create fear around this subject. Because I've had students that when I use the word cage, you can see visibly in their eyes, I've read bad things about this, or this guy doesn't know what he's doing. And it's like, no, you come to me for lessons. Just be open-minded and we'll get you where you need to be. There's no question about that. You'll get where you need to be and we'll take the approach we need. But Tom's approach is shit on your fears. Find what your insecurities are as a player, exploit your insecurities and promise that you can sell them the solution. That's a really, really sketchy way of doing business. And that worked. I'm sure that worked 10 years ago. But with guys now, you've got like Justin Sanderco or Tom Quayle that are very prominent online teachers. They don't need to do that in order to get people in and spending money. Therefore, I think Tom's going to go the way of the dinosaurs. And I didn't want to attack Tom because I've heard that Tom can be quite aggressive with the legal system, shall we say.
Right.
So I didn't want to attack him personally. But as I mentioned earlier, I like watching videos by guys like Thunderfoot, or I'll sit and watch 2 hours of theistic debates while I'm working. They're just on in the background. I like listening to people talk and be intelligent. So I thought I'll give it a go. So I thought I'd just criticise Tom's ideas. He has his article and he says, I believe this.
I mean, you can have a debate about ideas. You can criticise ideas as long as you have a valid point to make.
And I said at the start, don't take my word as fact. Just weigh up the two.
What I would say in respect to that is this: that if we take the analogy that not that there is necessarily a pinnacle or summit to guitar playing, but everyone's on a journey up this mountain, this Everest-like peak, right? And we're all striving to get further up the mountain. Now, it's self-evidently obvious that there isn't just one way up the mountain. Yeah. You can choose any number of paths up the mountain which are all going to be valid for you, and you can all get to the same point using different methods. I mean, let's say the goal is to be able to know the fretboard to the extent that you can play all the scales that you need all over the instrument, and you can do that without any conscious effort, which means that when you improvise, you're very free to play what you would like. Right, that's a goal that most improvisers would probably like to aspire to. Right, now, there's many ways up that mountain. There's very many ways to get to that goal, and I just don't agree with the statement that there's only one way to get that goal, because it just doesn't take account for how people might learn. I mean, I because of the era that I come out of, the 80s, where the sunshine was so much better.
I love the 80s.
But I mean, I'm because of the way that I learn, I'm like a 3-note per string guy, So I've never really particularly used the cage system, but it's not as if I think that my way is somehow inherently better, because that's the way I learn. So the way that I think about it, when someone says to me, well, what shape or position are you in there? I'm just thinking, I say to them, I'm not really in a shape or a position anymore.
This is transcend
exactly. And this is the point I was going to make. Is that when I look at the neck now, I just see the notes in whatever key I happen to be or whatever chord I'm playing over that. I see where they are. I don't need to really think about where they are. I'm not thinking about a shape, a scale, a position or anything like that. It's just this is where these notes are, right? And it would seem to me obvious that you can get to that point with whatever method. Whatever method you could do it by doing a 3-note per string thing, you do it with a cage thing, learning where all the notes are on the neck, that sort of method, playing along single strings. There's just no way. There's no way that you can say that one way would be better.
Well, I want to bring that balance to it, and I want to do a video on the 3-note string system because that's how I learn. It's a system I know very well. The only reason I took such issue with Tom is because from reading his actual article, it was clear that he didn't understand the system. He was just shitting on something he didn't understand. Right. Because I know you're a 3-note string player, but so that sort of means 7 shapes, right? So that's the way you learn it. Here's one, here's it, and you you've covered the entire neck.
Yeah,
you certain shapes. It's brilliant, but at the same time,
but it's not.
You don't play the pentatonic scale.
Yeah, I mean, it's the thing about it is that ultimately any system if you use a system for learning, that system is going to have limitations, and it's certainly not going to provide all the answers to everything. You can't expect one thing to provide all the answers, and also any system, because of its inherent nature, is going to place limitations upon what you can do and probably engender you in playing a certain way.
Yep.
So what is 3 note per string really good for? Well, if you want to do lots of 3 note per stringy shreddy patterns, it's fantastic for that. It's great for that. Is it particularly good for playing over complex bebop changes? No, it's freaking useless for that. It's useless for that. It doesn't really work for that.
Yeah.
So one of the things for me, for instance, is just trying to develop as a player that was quite difficult was I was a sort of 3 note per string guy. I was one of those 3 note per string guys, and if I was in a single key, I mean, I could like monster shred all over the instrument. Tremendous.
Yeah.
And as soon as I had one key change, it'd be like, oh, rabbit in the headlights, frozen, because I was just not used to having to move things around like that, and I really needed to change the way that I thought about things from really, to be honest, it was moving from a scale-based approach to thinking to really a chord-based approach to thinking, and I think that's really where Caged is going to work a lot better. Yeah. So I think you've got to realise that if you want to be, a rock player, 3 note per string shredder, learn the 3 note per string system. It's going to be great for that. If you want to play over a bunch of changes, it's not going to be so great for that. It really isn't.
I disagree, I think, with what you're saying there, because I'd say learn both. There's plenty of time for you to learn as many systems as you possibly can. There are more ways of learning the neck than Caged or 3 note, but it's not like a fight where you've got one or the other. I use both.
Because it's like saying that I mean, again, these are just arbitrary systems that we're imposing upon the instrument, which that don't define how we eventually learn something. I mean, the goal is to get to the level of knowledge that you're aspiring to, this control over the fretboard, and that's all that's important. How you get there, for me, that's a debate that is really pretty redundant. So all I would say in respect to that is that anybody who tells you this is the right way to do this, I would just say no. I just don't think that's true. I mean, just look at picking technique. Look at. I mean, think of 10 great alternate pickers. Do they all pick the same way?
If Eddie Van Halen came in for a lesson with me, I'm not going to sit down with him. The first thing I say to him is, well, first of all, Eddie, you're holding the pick all wrong. He knows what he's doing. It works for him. What I'd like to say though, I guess, on this Tom Hess one is, I think that it's not even really about what I was saying now that's important. I think the important thing that people should take away from that video is it's good to question. It's good to, if you see someone spreading misinformation, call them on it, because that's how we move forward as a society. You mentioned Young Earth Creationists earlier. Like, if I saw someone homeschooling their child and never letting them see the outside world and telling them that the earth is 5,000 years old, I consider that child abuse. And I think shit like that needs to be eradicated, because knowledge should inform us and should inform our decisions. What we know should inform our decisions. So to go that Tom Hess route and say this is the one way to learn, or he didn't actually even present the alternative, he just said I can give you the alternative, sign up.
Right.
That needs to be called.
It's kind of like
question all ideas.
It's kind of like a cult or messiah complex, then, isn't it? That only if you'll follow me and do what I tell you to do, then all will be revealed. Yeah. So it's somewhat like a cult in that respect, I guess.
I would love it if someone responded. If somebody did a video or a written article responding to my video, because that's where debate comes in.
Yeah, but I think the problem is that most people don't know how to argue. Yeah. Most people don't know how to frame a coherent argument and actually get the point across without resorting to an ad hominem attack upon somebody.
And that happened.
Well, I mean, the problem is because it's controversial and biting it.
Yeah. I don't mind it. That's the beauty of it. Like, all right, I'm going to defend myself if I'm met with ad hominem attacks or straw man arguments, but it's good. I want people to question what I'm saying. Like I say, in that video, there's a disclaimer at the start. Don't take what I'm saying as fact. I'm just presenting you with the other side of the argument. Weigh up this side and this side. Come to your own decisions and move forward in the direction that suits you. I'm not trying to sell you anything.
I I think all we can really say at this point is that, you know, don't take what anybody says as being the gospel, as it were, because there's just not one way to knowledge.
It's bad for business, but I do it with my students. Like, students study with me, and I say to them, I think what would be good for you now is to go and have a couple of lessons with that guy, and go and have a couple of lessons with that guy, because you'll come back to me. I know you'll come back, but go and have a couple of lessons with them, because what will happen is it will reinforce what we've been working on, because don't see me as some messiah because I'm your teacher and I've helped you improve. You need to know that what I'm saying is true based on lots of people's opinions. When you start hearing the same words from lots of people that you admire the playing of, then you can have a bit more faith in it.
I think really all you can talk about in these terms is just generalities. I mean, you can say that in general it's better to use all four fingers than just use one finger. You know, but you're going to come across a guy who probably disproves that. Yeah. You know, you say in general it's more efficient if you do this. In general, you'll get better results if you do that, because it's true for, you know, the majority of people, but you can't say it's going to be true for everybody. And so I think this is where the notion that there's one correct way, one true path to knowledge just completely falls to bits. Yeah. So
it's funny the things that work for you, because I was struggling to really be at one with the instrument. I had all these conflicting ideas, but I was lucky enough to get some one-on-one time with Calverheyen, and then I had some one-on-one time with Wayne Krantz. When they came to the Institute, I sort of muscled my way into the room set up. So I set the chairs up, and then I sat in them and chatted to them while they were sound checking for 45 minutes or so, and just chatting guitar and playing a bit. And it took 3 years or so, but those were profound experiences. What they said to me didn't really register or resonate until years later. But when it hit, I went, I get it now. But I wouldn't say that that's the right way to do things. That's just what unlocked the door for me.
It's funny that sometimes you can have an experience at a certain point which doesn't really make sense until you've moved further on down the road.
Yeah.
I can remember having experiences like that in college, about asking my guitar teacher in college about things that really were, at the time, way outside the scope of what I could possibly understand. And he explained them to me, and I might have understood them on an intellectual level, but I didn't understand them.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean? Like,
you could recite, but you couldn't.
Yeah, there's a great difference between being able to tell somebody what something is, recite a fact that you've learnt, and actually understand it.
Yeah.
And I think the understanding of anything only really comes through experiential knowledge.
Yeah.
So
I'm sure there are people watching this video that could tell you E equals MC squared, but I don't think
they understand
it. Goes much deeper than that.
Well, they say that if you think you understand quantum theory, you don't understand quantum theory. Yeah. Right, okay, so we'll leave Tom alone because, poor guy with his millions.
Yeah.
I know. So we'll leave Tom alone. I think we've said everything to say with that. So what else you done then?
So after that, I got a very, you mentioned ad hominem attacks. Things got very personal, and the point was made, rather ironically, that you should stop telling people what to do. Someone came at me and was shouting, saying, "You shouldn't tell people what to do."
It's odd. You can't accuse someone of, it's terrible how you're making this ad hominem attack on somebody. Yeah. You dick.
Yeah. Yeah, so I defended myself, and lots of people jumped in and pointed out the irony. And what I was met with was, you don't even gig. You're not even a real musician.
Right,
go out and get
interesting.
a gig. Right? And that doesn't actually bother me, because I'm so happy in my position. I get to get into my own bed every night with my girlfriend and be happy. And I've been out on the road and the doing shows thing, and for me it wasn't fun. Lots of people love it, but for me, I love my bed. I love private. I love my privacy. When you're sharing a tour bus with 8 guys, there's no privacy, and I hate it. That experience isn't.
Well, I think the core issue is that line of argument is that it's trying to say that you can only define yourself as a legitimate musician if you're out playing with a band.
Yeah.
And that's just patently.
And in this particular case, out in a band playing covers.
Right. Okay. Well, that just seems like a ludicrous argument to me. The last time that I played regularly with a band was in 2007. It was. And most of my playing career has really just been as what you might describe as a fairly unglamorous working musician. I've just done gigs with various bands, like function band, wedding band, that sort of thing. Nothing high profile, nothing glamorous. did make a fair amount of income.
Yeah.
The only thing you can't actually make money out of anymore if you're a gigging musician is weddings, unless you're going to do massive tours, you know.
Yeah. But you're still always professional.
I just don't see how that argument has any weight.
Yeah, well, it didn't have weight, and they knew it didn't have weight because people chimed in and said there's no weight here. But it made me really angry. Not for myself, not because I don't care, because I make a good living, I'm happy, I'm comfortable. It was more for other people that might have read that and felt like, oh, am I not a real musician? And like I've got an album out, and people have bought it. Like and I get emails from people saying they love it. That's an amazing feeling. And yeah, sure, if it was viable to go out and play shows, we'd go out and play shows. But because the people that have bought it are spread out all over the world, it's a little bit harder to go to a city somewhere in France and play a gig and know that people are going to be there. I don't need to in order for people to listen to and enjoy the music.
I think the point is here that you're just like against the commercial difficulties of being a gig musician. That it's almost impossible now to go out and make any sort of realistic living being an on-the-road gigging musician, unless you're part of a function band or one of these really large touring tribute shows or something like that. You
in which
make
case
some money
you're
there.
playing covers, and there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
But to play covers, play someone else's music for a living, and then to look down at other musicians who, in my case, have put the last year of my life into creatively making an album, self-releasing an album, and it being well received. But to look at someone like that and say you're not a real musician, it didn't bother me. But I got upset for other people.
Yeah, it's just nonsense. That is, it's just nonsense.
Yeah.
I think the point you made in that video, which I would have watched, someone said that that even if you're in your bedroom and you never get outside your bedroom and you never record anything and you're playing, you're still a musician.
Yeah.
It's not it's the ability to play that defines whether you're a musician or not. It's not. It's not what you do with that.
The only argument you could make is that if that's what you do, you're not a professional musician.
Well, fair enough.
You can't dispute that. If you just play in your bedroom, you're not a professional musician. But likewise, there are plenty of guys on the internet that we know, and it would be rude to name names in this case because a lot of them are friends, and also there's nothing wrong with it, that aren't professional musicians. They've got big followings on YouTube or whatever, but they still have day jobs to pay the bills. Yeah. So they've not transitioned into doing it professionally, but they're still absolutely 100% musicians. They make music that I listen to and enjoy, and then they go off to their day jobs.
So in that case,
families.
the definition of a professional musician is only that's where either all or the majority of your income comes from. That's just the definition of a professional musician.
Yeah, just like the argument that this person was making is you're not a real musician unless you're gigging. No. You're not a gigging musician unless you're gigging. Yeah, you're not a touring musician unless you're
That's right. I mean, it's like saying you're not a teaching musician unless you teach.
Yeah.
It makes no sense at all.
It's fascinating though. The industry is changing. Like I think if you went back to the 80s and told yourself, you're the younger you, how you'd be making a living today.
Absolutely.
You wouldn't believe it.
I mean, I got faced with, and this is going back in time, back to the 80s. When I was about sort of 17 or 18, that point, I really knew that's all I wanted to do. I'd been playing the instrument for about 3 years at that point, and I knew that's all I wanted to do. And when I told my stepdad that's what I wanted to do, I got a very sort of typical, sort of dad reaction. Well, son, that's not a real job. How are you actually going to make a living out of that? And I suppose to be fair to him, the question at that time was a question I didn't have an answer to. Yeah. I had no idea. I thought, well, I mean, the band I was in, maybe we could get a record deal, because that's kind of what you imagine when you're 18. Yeah. You get a record deal. But the ironic thing was, and I can say this because my stepfather's not part of my life anymore. In fact, unfortunately, he's dead. He died rather tragically, which I wouldn't wish on him. But I started teaching guitar after I'd been playing guitar about a year. Right, which is shocking to relate because the quality of the lessons can't have been that good. Yeah. But what I did was I taught the stuff that I knew. Yeah. Because the way that I learned to play guitar was all backwards. I learned to shred, and I could shred within the first 18 months. Never mind this chord nonsense. Well, I think actually, to be fair, because I started off listening to U2 and things like that, I could actually play some chords. Yeah. I remember finding a power chord, and that was pretty much a revelation. I'd been playing the guitar for a year and went down to this jam, and this guy was playing this power chord, and it sounded so awesome. I'm like, what's that? It's amazing. I was Paranoid by Black Sabbath, and I was like, yes. And that just opened up that whole Pandora's box. But I was making some money from music after being playing for less than 2 years. Yep. I was teaching, and before I went to college in 1990 and to study music, I was I was at that point working in a supermarket. That's the only real job, proper job, if you like, I've ever had. But I was definitely making extra income from teaching at that point. And from that point onwards, when we went to college in 1990, that I've not done anything else. So if you like, from that point, I've been a professional musician. So that's really what defines being a professional musician, is if that's where your income comes from, whichever sphere or arena you make it, you're a professional musician.
But the most important thing, I think, is that the professional part doesn't matter. By not being a professional musician, it doesn't make you any less of a musician.
No, that's not a distinction you can make, because there are probably, I mean, there will be guys out there who are much better players than me who aren't professional musicians. It's just that they do something else with their life, and the music is just something, is a part of their life, but it's not what they do to make money.
I was chatting on Facebook last night, /arguing as always, and I was just still sticking up for these people, and I was met with someone saying, yeah, but some people shouldn't play guitar. Some people should give up on it.
Well,
some people are better off putting
but who's the arbiter of that? Who's going to be the arbiter of that?
Well, you? Nobody agreed with him. Everybody said, but because the reason he said that is because I'd said the problem with this idea of saying to someone they're not a musician unless they're out touring and gigging is you can have negative impacts. If my students came to me every week and I said, you're not gigging yet, you're still not a real musician,
well, that'd be a terrible thing to say.
They're not going to want to pick up the instrument. They're going to constantly feel beaten down. Like, I want to encourage their musicianship. I want them to go on and achieve great things. Who knows where they're going to be a few years from now? Like, your most notable student is obviously Brandon. Like, he's a fantastic player. He's not on a big tour.
No.
Yet.
Not yet.
But it absolutely could and probably will happen because he's a great player. So to say to him, you're not a musician yet.
That's just ludicrous.
You're a musician and you're gonna do well because of your skills. Yeah. But this guy was like, well, some people shouldn't play, and it's like.
Yeah, well, I think the problem with that, number one, is who's the arbiter of who should be allowed and who shouldn't. I mean, have you got like a guitar police that turns up? Like, are you and I going to go around to this guy's house and go, well, let me see, what sort of character are you? No, I don't think you should be allowed to play guitar. Put that instrument down immediately.
I was walking through Glasgow city centre the other day, and there was a busker. I say a busker, it was like an old gypsy lady, and she just had a ukulele, and the 4 strings were out of tune, right? And she wasn't fretting, she was just strumming, right? And she was just sitting, but she had the biggest smile on her face, and she was singing her heart out, right? And it sounded awful, right? But who am I to say to her, you should stop? No. Because it brought a lot of pain to everyone walking past her, but it brought her so much joy. She was so happy doing that, and it's not my place to tell someone.
Absolutely, and it's a ludicrous assertion anyway to make that somehow, who gets to decide? Yeah. Who gets to decide? I mean, the whole point about music is that it should be a source of joy and expansion in people's lives, regardless of the level of skill they possess on the instrument. I mean, I actually find that, interestingly, if you're a really serious musician, you possibly get less joy out of the instrument because you're so focused on trying to improve, and all your energy goes into getting better, and you think, oh God, why am I so terrible, and I suck at all this, and this is really, really bad. Whereas a guy who can play 3 chords and knows loads of songs, and he's probably having a great time. He does, the last thing he cares about is some controversy over caged and 3 note per string. He's like, I've got my G, my C, and my D, and I've got my 3 chords and the truth.
Yes,
3 chords rock and roll the truth.
Yeah. That's all that matters. Like, if you go that route, then Bob Dylan wouldn't have had a career. Now, I'm not a Bob Dylan fan, but he's not a great player, and he's not a great singer, as far as I'm concerned. But I'd never want to take that away from anybody because he brings such joy to people. And there are artists I like that make terrible rackets, but I still love them. Maybe they should put down the instruments. The world would be a sadder place if they did put down the instruments.
This kind of harks back to the whole debate about technique. I mean, the Dylan expresses his musical personality within the confines of the technique and the ability he has. And you can't say that somehow that's intrinsically less valid than someone with a much better voice and say a much better technique on the guitar. You can't, because it's really in the realm of subjective artistry, you cannot actually make any sort of comparison about those two things. You can maybe compare, on a technical level, you can compare vocal register, vocal range, intonation, technique on the instrument, but that's really...
You could even go in and correct it post.
That's just reducing music to some sort of mechanistic thing, which it's not about at all.
You could go in and correct it post, but then all the soul's going to be gone.
Oh, I like that. quantizing. Oh yeah. I take all my soulful performances and systematically remove all of that from it.
There are definitely spots on my record like where there's a bend that's like a little bit flat. Don't care though, just don't, because that was how it happened. That was the truth of it.
I'm sorry, I'm an intonation Nazi. I'm an intonation.
For the most part,
fix that.
Yeah, for the most part, I really am. But what I like to do with my bends is I like to bend to the note and just sit there for a good second before I put any vibrato on, just so people know.
Yeah, I do that as well.
But every now and again, like, it doesn't go exactly as you want it. But
well, maybe that's about the debate, like this. Because obviously we have the tools to do this now. We can go and you can fix anything now. We can fix timing, we can fix intonation issues, and you can use punching, and you can assemble this mind blowing solo, but it's not actually you.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Again, it's like this facade you've erected, and I much prefer something that is, is an honest reflection of how you are.
I don't always take an issue with that. Like, there are certain albums that I listen to and I go, "There's no way this could be pulled off live." But it's not live. It's an album. This is their artistic vision. This is the painting. This is what they envisage. I wouldn't be all that offended if like somebody, if on my record I needed to ask somebody else to play one of the solos because I knew what I wanted but I couldn't do it. I wouldn't consider that cheating. Again, I hate the word cheating because it's not cheating. My vision is this.
No.
I can't actually execute what my vision is. Just in the same way that I'm sure Mozart couldn't play the bassoon,
right?
But he absolutely wrote for it.
Of course. Well, interesting. Well, I've got to say that this conversation has been very collegiate and non-controversial, really. Do we agree about absolutely everything?
Oh, the tragic part is, Rowan, I feel that I'm actually cheating the world because I make these videos and it's so cheap just saying the things that everybody else already thinks. But you're right, like for the most part, when I sit down with just about anybody and talk about these things, we just seem to be like, it's unanimous agreement.
Well, I think it depends what sort of musician you're talking to. I think, I don't think I really hold. I've got strong views, but I don't necessarily have controversial views. And the views which are controversial, I tend to. Well, I don't know if I do tend to keep them to myself. But I wouldn't express them in the direct way that you would. But that's just my personality, not to do that. Yeah.
Well, that's because you're an actual musician, whereas I think of myself a lot more as an entertainer.
Right. Okay. Well, that's a very flattering thing to say. Yeah.
No, this is going on your channel and this is entertaining, so.
Well, I know. I mean, we'd hate to have something entertaining on my channel. I feel we've talked for ages, maybe we should at least have a break.
Yes.
Alright, so I think we've covered all the controversy, haven't we? We've covered really pretty much all the vlogs you've done. Alright, well, I think we're going to leave it for this for the meantime. Levi and I may do some playing together, or I don't know, I might just have a cup of tea and sit down. We'll see what transpires. But anyway, do you want to plug your website and stuff at the end?
Yeah, if you want to find out more about me, you can go the old school route and visit leviclay.com. Though who uses websites anymore? I try to keep mine up.
I plug my website constantly.
Facebook. If you add me on Facebook, you can get to know. People are always shocked. They send me private messages on Facebook and I respond to them. I respond to every message that anybody sends me and I'm happy to write essays helping anyone out because share the love. Like, I've been very lucky in my career. I've had like great guys like Martin Goulding and Tom Quayle and Andy James. They've helped me out when they didn't have to. And without guys like that, I wouldn't be where I am today. So I feel it's my damn duty to help people out as much as I can moving forward.
You see, he's not really a horrible person at all. He's a lovable teddy bear. Look at him, he's so lovable, sitting there wanting to help people out.
So I'd rather the Facebook route. If you add me on Facebook, like, give me a chance to get to know you. Everybody that adds me on Facebook, I always check out what they do, and I've met some of my best friends in the world on the internet. So yeah, hopefully I'll get to know you soon.
Oh,
it's like an old school dating.
How exciting! Yeah. This is like Match.com.
Yeah.
Meet Levi Clay.
If you choose me.
You get controversial videos.
I would say Cilla wears Cilla black, but it's a bad.
Well, she's dead. Yeah. Well, I think he's either buried or in sort of discorporeal form. Anyway, I'm going to shamelessly plug all my products and services, as I always do. So it's rowanjparker.com. You can subscribe to the site if you like. Stick your website address in. Stick your email address. In the subscribe box. Hit subscribe, and you get a free bit of the website with lots of goodies, which are all free, mostly free. You can buy things too. You can buy things in the store. Lots of products. in the store. You can buy them and check out. And let's see what else. Free stuff on SoundCloud, Rowan J Parker on SoundCloud. Loads of backing tracks really there. You can download them all for free to noodle over. What else can I shamelessly plug? Well, I'm on Facebook as well. Rowan J Parker. You know the best guitar players of J as their middle initial.
That is true.
I know.
I hear the J stands for jazz. Very Jazz Malmsteen.
Yeah, jazz. Alright, okay, and let's see what else. Yeah, I'm on Twitter, but I don't really use Twitter particularly.
You're on YouTube where they're watching this, so hit the subscribe button.
I know, it's Rowan J Parker on YouTube. And let's see, I've also set up a Patreon page.
I've considered that.
I've done it. I haven't done it. I haven't actually really unveiled it to the masses yet, but yeah, I've set up a Patreon page. You can support me and pledge whatever you can afford, down to $1. If you support me by giving me like $5 or more, I'll make you a free video just for you. Whatever you like. Just tell me what subject you want it done about and knock you off a little video.
$5 for a striptease sounds like a
I know.
bargain.
It's not me that's doing it though, you'd be glad to hear it's one of the hookers I have in the garage. Okay, right, so on that salubrious note, to complete this video, it's been wonderful talking to Levi, and hopefully this will be the beginning of a beautiful friendship. So, till then, I've been Rowan J Parker, and this has obviously been
Levi Clay.
The great, the wonderful, the amazing Levi Clay. And we'll see you next time. Farewell.